Hi, this is the James. On Halloween morning of 2010, I started skipping through the radio channels as soon as I woke up, like I usually do, and found that on my least favorite of the presets, Mix 93.3, they were talking about a haunted house in Atchison, Kansas. I left it on there and suffered through their so-called music off and on for an hour, while they interspersed their morning show with an interview of an area ghost hunter about this house. They had a few EVPs that were not too convincing, and audio of a guy getting scared because something had tugged his pant leg. The DJs did not mention something that I found out later, which was that the former cop that was attesting that this guy was scared also happens to be the landlord of said house. One EVP was of no discernible words at all, but one of the DJs decided it was Indians chanting, and so they kept playing it over and over. 9 days later, I happened to notice there's a documentary about this house at the local library. I borrow it, anticipating a really interesting film, especially since this haunted place is only about 20 miles from me. I was a little leery, however, when I noticed the description on the back contained the words, accursed, renowned, and psychic, all spelled wrong. Just because the producer can't spell, it doesn't mean this is fake, I hoped. But the large print sentence on the back got me to wondering. The scariest house in the most haunted town in America. I have several large ghost directories and never seen this house listed anywhere, nor anything in Atchison at all. I watched it anyway. Here are 6 main things that jumped out at me. 1. The couple who made all this famous are not believable at all. Are personal friends with an alleged psychic in California, and contradicted themselves. 2. Was the guy thrown out of both of his shoes or just one shoe by a ghost? The story changes more than once. 3. The ex-cop who vouches for stuff, as well as another ex-cop, are the house's owner and his best friend. 4. The internationally renowned psychic is no one I have ever heard of, nor is he mentioned in any reference books I have about psychics. How famous is he really? But the word international sounds impressive anyway, and is true as he is Canadian. 5. The EVP specialist plays just a couple recordings from the house, neither of which are clear at all. 6. The video and pictures contradict what the narrator is saying, so the film disproves itself with 8 details. First, the candle that dripped wax upwards and also had never been lit. Actual photo shows a candle with a black wick, which means it has been lit. Wax direction is hard to tell, but it could have easily been held upside down for a few seconds. Second, the spirit-sensing dog finding a spirit. Actual footage simply shows it stopping at a closet, but not looking disturbed otherwise. It probably wouldn't go in since it thought it may get stuck, as it is a Great Dane. Third, as far as the allegation of numerous acts of bricks being thrown at them inside the basement, which supposedly materialized out of thin air. Despite camera crews in this basement at the time, not one brick was filmed. We have to imagine it. Fourth, the actual footage of scratches appearing on people in the house. Well, it was over a 9-hour period, so you have to take their word for it. Sped-up photography did not occur to them. The scratches looked like lipstick marks to me. No doctor reports are offered. Fifth, the photo of the stuffed bear toy spinning around shows no bear at all, just a blur where the bear is supposed to be. No one took a video. Sixth, the landlord was supposedly signing a contract for the show, Sightings, to film in there, when the paper blew around some, but the Sightings camera crew did not manage to film it. Seventh, the supposedly shocking actual film of someone getting burned. He did not look surprised or scared at all in the face, and the burned hair was not visible in the close-up they showed. It also could have been pre-burned, too easily and hidden with his shirt. Why was someone filming the sound guy for so long anyway? And 8. The Canadian psychic is being filmed in the basement and claims his finger is being pulled by a ghost. It leads him to a corner where he can see orbs. Following a straightened finger around is corny, to put it mildly. Then a picture of an orb is allegedly shown, which just does not show an orb at all. Besides these photo and film foibles, a few more things about it bothered me. At one point, they showed a black mark on the basement floor, which was supposedly a painted over spot. What was painted over was a pentagram, as they called it, that they showed. Did someone take a picture of it before they painted over it? I kind of doubt it. But what they did show was a very uneven, sloppy star with the word Azazel below it. They said a witch lived there once and made the markings. How is this relevant, and how does it tie in? They don't say. Besides, witches do not worship the demon Azazel. But there is a movie called Azazel, which is probably where they heard the name to start with. Look up Azazel on Wikipedia to see scores of uses of the word in popular culture. And what do witches have to do with ghosts or any of the rest of this anyway? Nothing, but it makes it scarier, doesn't it? Speaking of movies, there are several odd coincidences with movies here as well. Remember the scenes in the Amityville Horror where they tried to call their priest and the phone was staticky? The landlord had a phone static incident too, and then called his priest. Remember The Exorcist, where they heard scratching noises in the attic? They heard scratching noises in the walls here. Remember in the Amityville Horror, the family seen the demon as they were fleeing the house? The guy living there seen the ghost one day too. The people living there who made all these claims also were there on a lease and lived there for 22 months. Or was it 30 months? Both are claimed to be the case. They had an infant baby in the house too, and the guy had an urge to stab his wife one day. As in Amityville, psychosis sets in. And if a man has an urge to stab his wife, it must be supernatural, indeed. And like the idiotic movie Paranormal Activity, they supposedly see all this crazy and endangering stuff going on, but it does not occur to them to leave, not even for the baby's sake. What would you do? At one point, they recall the boot incident yet again, where a guy was thrown across the room and either one or both, they can't keep it straight, of his laced-up work boots is left in place. While he was lying against an open door, his neck veins were straining and he couldn't move. They say he was held down, but also that he felt like he was hit by a Mack truck or a train. So he was probably winded is all. At this point, the California psychic comes in and demands he be released in the name of Jesus. This releases him. This shows that the so-called psychic is a Bible-thumping zealot who is off her rocker. And that science and facts are not of relevance here. Which brings us to the mechanics of the shoe story. Fully laced work boots being left where he stood despite him being thrown across the room. The laces of boots themselves would have been torn, or the soles somehow glued to the carpet, or he had a glob of grease in his boots. Otherwise, this physically could not have happened. They did not say the boots or their laces were torn or glued down. So did his feet dematerialize momentarily? Or what? Because a girl is rumored to have died during a painful operation there, an urban myth was born. All that was needed was the factoid that a doctor lived in the house once, back in 1906. This is why the ghost is wearing 1800s clothes, I guess. But it is well documented, of course. For example, the neighbor says her young boy was scared one night of shadows that were monsters. Imagine that happening. Further evidence is that this mother and her brothers were looking in the windows of the house one day when someone grabbed her hips from behind. Okay. The scariest claim made by the house's former tenants was that the pull chains on the ceiling fans would move by themselves. This is scary because if that indicates a haunting, then I have lived in many homes that were haunted without even knowing it. And I thought the fan motion was agitating the chain. I also have never heard of poltergeist activity, ghost haunting, and demonic presences commingling in one structure at one time. They are three totally different phenomena, and one traumatic incident or death will not conjure them all up at once. It just never happens. But all three are claimed in this case. And when a person really is scratched by an invisible demon, without exception as far as I have ever heard, a horrible infection sets in. And they happen instantly, not over 9 hours. By now the misspellings and failure to edit the back cover were the least of my concerns over this video. The producer tried, and I hope this project was a good vehicle for him to get some practice. Maybe nowadays he's making better and more important films. I hope. This house was put up for sale about 2015. The listing said it was worth $64,148, but it was for sale for $1 million. After all, it has a quoted, proven track record of $400 per night with word of mouth only, which proves this hoax is a business. Later, the price was reduced to $750,000. I don't know if it was sold or the original owner still has it, but it is no longer for sale. I'll put a link below to the listing, which is still up on Zillow. The Atchison Chamber of Commerce used to have a page about tours of haunted Atchison, which included this house, but that page no longer exists. There also used to be a nice site selling the DVD, which is also no longer up. You can buy it on Amazon for $8 still, and there's a bunch of books and shows about it too. Podcasters and little-known authors alike need fodder, so stories, no matter how silly, never die but are incessantly regurgitated. But one more thing, really. Is Atchison, Kansas the most haunted town in America, as the DVD cover claims? Or Kansas even? Hardly. For Kansas alone, look up these much more convincing haunted sites. There's the Comerick Home in Great Bend, Sentinel Hill in Hayes, Morningside Park houses in Kansas City, Fort Leavenworth buildings in Leavenworth, and the Purple Mask Theater at KSU in Manhattan, Johnson County Industrial Airport Hangar 43 in Olathe, the Gardner House in Topeka, and the Rockingham Cemetery in Topeka. Anyway, keep an open mind, investigate the pop culture hype, and have a great day.